So what do you think would really capture people when you're watching this? Or how would you explain that why people should watch it?
I think anyone that's interested in films that affect them emotionally would be interested in a film, and anyone that's interested in a good story where they'll be taken through a roller coaster of emotions, ultimately happy, I think. And also where they can look at a slice of American life that they probably haven't thought about before, and just kind of have their minds opened a little bit more to people they might know in their lives, LGBT people, but they hadn't really realized what they were living under until they've seen I Do. Because I think you only know something when you've either lived through it or you have someone very close to you that's lived through it. I mean, you have no concept otherwise. And I think what I Do does is it takes you through that experience of what it was like to live here and what it's like to be gay in America.
And can you tell us about the new film that you're working on?
Yeah, yes. I'm really excited about it. It's called Limited Partnership. It's a documentary. It's about Richard and Tony, who were married in Boulder, Colorado, legally in 1975. The county clerk at the time, and this just happened again in Boulder, there's a county clerk, Hillary Hall, she's issuing licenses. But Clayla Rolex, she was issuing marriage licenses. She issued 6, and Richard and Tony got married in 1975. They then petitioned the INS, which is the Immigration Naturalization Services back in the day, for Tony's green card because he's from Australia. They got a letter from the INS that said, you've been denied because you've failed to show that there can be a bona fide marriage between 2 faggots. So the American government wrote a letter that included the word faggots. And this film is about their fight for equality over 40 years and how they've stayed together for 40 years and how much they love each other, and they've just been through thick and thin. We've showed, premiere was the Los Angeles Film Festival. We showed at Outfest and Frameline. And each time we've shown, we've had a packed house and we've had standing ovations, and people are extremely moved by the film. So I'm very excited. It's going to be on PBS, on the Independent Lens, I think this time next year, May, June of next year.
How was the audience's reaction to those movies?
The reactions to the film were incredible. I mean, I've never been to a documentary. I mean, I've been to feature films that have had standing ovations, but not to the emotional extent that I've seen this. With a documentary, it's kind of unheard of, I think. I'd never seen it. People are crying, they cry through the Q&A. They just don't realize that marriage equality has been a 40-year fight for some people. That, in fact, gay marriage is 4 decades old. The first ones that occurred were before a lot of people that fought for equality were even born. I mean, people thought that marriage equality started with Prop 8 and DOMA and all the fights that happened back in 2007, 2008, whatever. But no, these guys have been fighting for decades, and they were still together. Unfortunately, Richard passed away a couple of years ago before DOMA was ruled on, but just incredible to see a couple that stayed together for 40 years, despite the fact they were fighting immigration the whole time.
So I'd say before anyone should go see your movies, that they need to bring like 10 tissue boxes with them.
Yes. Yeah, I do like emotional movies. I like movies that entertain and make you think at the same time. I think for me as a filmmaker, that's what really turns me on, and that's what I prefer to watch. And I was told a long time ago that you should make stuff that you want to see. Don't make stuff that you think people want to see, because A, you want to stand behind your work, and B, I want to be proud and know that my heart is on the screen. I think that's, some good advice I got back in the day.
So I have to say, I love your accent, by the way.
Thank
your
you.
British accent, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So I've noticed nowadays that a lot of these American movies have British actors and actresses. So what is your reaction to that? Are you like a proud kind of thing?
I think that, I would like to say that Australian and British actors are better than American actors, and maybe they are. I don't know what it is. I
agree on that. Like, even now, like, the recent Superman and both Spider-Man, everybody's British or Australian.
It's interesting because, of course, I live in LA, so most of my friends are American actors, and they're great. I don't know, maybe maybe it brings some cachet to the project now.
It's not even just actors and actresses, it's also like musicians and just
everything.
everything.
I know. Well, England is known for its higher level art with music and film and stuff. I think that we have a very different culture for the arts. So basically, it's maybe changed now, but when I was a kid growing up, first of all, it's raining all the time, there's very little to do, so you would just create stuff. Plus, if you were unemployed, you'd get, be on the dole, and government could kind of hold you up until you find a job. So there's less of a stress about career and making money. There in Europe, it's flipped the other way. You don't work to live, you live to work, or is that the other way around? Anyway, in America, it's very career, very money oriented, and people seemingly don't have much of a culture of relaxing and hanging out and talking in bars and clubs and sharing ideas. Maybe that's just LA. And I think maybe we've just lots of good people from England.
So where do you hope to see these movies within like the next 10 years? Just as classics, or just keep making them more and more, and making more people cry? Like, what do you hope to see?
I don't always want to make people
You're
cry.
You're going to have gallons of tears.
Yeah, right? I am the tear collector. I have a collection of Ziploc bags of people's
your own tears.
Right? I would like for I Do to be looked back on as a classic. I think that limited partnership is so new in its life out there, and it's so overwhelming, the reaction that particular film is getting, especially for documentary. I'm very proud to be involved in a couple of films recently that kind of show a snapshot of America and will be there, for a very long time, showing people what it was like to live in America at that time, which is kind of cool. In fact, the Oscar people asked for my script for their archives, so my script is with the Oscar people, which is really crazy.
Maybe if you're at the Oscars next year, I'll be the one who delivers the pizza this time.
Oh, that's so funny. Maybe you can come as my date.
So where do you hope to see happen with the LBGT within the next, or what changes would you like to see hopefully happen?
I would definitely like full marriage equality across the country, state and federal, of course. That's happening. It's just a given. There is a court case that might be happening in June of next year. The Supreme Court might be ruling on a case that would basically nullify all of the state level DOMAs, because DOMA was a federal level law, and then there was every state had its own anti-gay marriage law. There might be a case going that would nullify all of them. So overnight we would have federal rights in every single state. Just more people kind of realizing that gay people are just like everybody else, that there's no distinction, it's just different, you just love somebody different, or the same, whatever, I don't know, but just more of an understanding. And I think that young people don't give really too much thought to it, whereas there's so many older people and it's definitely changing, but we just get over it, over ourselves when it comes to LGBT people. I think trans people especially have, a bit of an uphill battle ahead, and I think it's started already, which is amazing. There's so many people coming out. So I'm really excited to see that change as well, because I think they've had a really hard time in both communities, both the gay community and the straight community. So just more gay actors who are out being hired for straight roles, and point where no one cares about sexuality. It's just another hat you wear, as it were.
And I know, myself personally, I have friends who are gay or trans, so what advice would you want to give for them?
Wow, what advice would I give for trans and gay people? That's a good question.
Or even just, nowadays with teenagers especially, because teenagers are, most judgmental and about that.
Yeah. I think that bullying is definitely plays a big part in a lot of young people's lives, and I know that there's this whole "it gets better" campaign, and I think it does, but I think saying that to a young person when they're going through what they're going through doesn't help at all. And I think my advice would be, you know, stick up for each other and help each other. And, you know, if you don't understand, just talk to the person and try and understand where they're coming from, so people are not so isolated, and just care about each other, because especially in school, I mean, it's so heightened. Everything is so intense, and it can be really rough for people. So I think it's just a question of, there are people out there. You know, Trevor Project is an amazing resource that people can reach out to. They have an online presence, so if they don't want to call up, they can go online and they can join. Like, Trevor has their own version of Facebook, basically. So just, there are people out there. You just have to reach out and don't be scared, and make sure that when you're reaching out to people, that there's a safe person to reach out to.
And since we're at this advice part now, advice from David Ross, I know that your character does find the one. So what do you think what are the qualities of finding the one? How do you know that you found them?
Well, when I wrote I Do, I'd been single for a very long time,
Yeah.
and I wasn't interested in meeting anybody, but I was lucky enough to meet somebody about 1.5 years ago. And for me, the qualities of somebody who is the one, without all the pressure, just somebody who supports you, raises you up, doesn't bring you down. If they have something to say, it's constructive criticism, and it's because they love you, and you know that you feel safe around, and that you know has your back, you know, and that you can love them, you know, and you can support them, and you feel safe to do that too.
So any last messages for the people who've already watched it and for those who haven't watched it yet?
I'd want to say thank you to the people that have watched it. It means a lot to me. This really was a grassroots film. We raised most of the money on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So I feel that from the beginning, this was something that many, many people were involved in all around the world. And if you haven't seen it, that's a really good reason why you should see it, because about 1,000 people came together to make this film happen. And we're just so proud of it, and we're so happy that so many people are having such a great emotional reaction to the film. And we're just really thrilled it's out there and available on Netflix.
Okay, so lastly, where can people find you out on social media? Or if they want to talk to you, where can they go to?
Yeah, and I love that. I love it when people want to reach out on social media. So I'm on facebook.com/actor David W. Ross. My Twitter is David_W_Ross, which I know is kind of annoying. And you can find all my links and everything at davidwross.com.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And be sure to check out I Do on Netflix.
Thanks, guys.